Hey y'all, Grown Black Folks Talk, back out on the climb again, and I'm doing a bunch of these on the same day because I'm going to be out of the office for Juneteenth, and probably the next day too. Out of the office. Well, I'll probably still be out here. Just may not be making videos. The wisdom of Ulysses S. Grant. Very, very simple. This isn't a long video. How do we get to Juneteenth? Well, the Civil War had to be won by the Union. And that winning did not happen in June of 1865 or even April of 1865. Ulysses S. Grant, when he took over sort of in the spring-ish of 1864, he had actually been in the Western Theater and defeated the Western Confederacy on July 4th of 1863, the Battle of Vicksburg. They finally broke the siege and cut the Confederacy in half, cut off the western half. That was very important. Well, Lincoln, seeing what he had done over there, said, I'm going to put him in command of the Eastern Theater real quick because I done spent 5 generals over there and none of them people know how to count. How can you have this many more troops and Lee keeps beating them? I'm going to put Grant over there. He'll figure it out. And he did. And I'm going to tell you exactly how it was, though. When he got to the Eastern Theater in April, May-ish, everybody had their story of all the evil stuff that Lee had been doing to the army for the past 2 years. Everybody had a story. And General Grant finally got mad, sat everybody down and said, I am sick and tired of y'all talking about lead this and lead that. Y'all act like this man's able to do a triple somersault and be on all sides of our army at once. Well, actually, Robert E. Lee had pretty much pulled something like that off at the battle, I think it was Chancellorsville. That had actually happened to General Hooker. So some of those men had actually been there when Lee had basically split his army 3 ways and done that triple somersault. It's not that that didn't happen. But General Grant was like, look, I don't want to hear another word about what you think Lee is doing. Let's focus on what we're doing. 11 months later, war's over. Grant won. Went on to become president, went on to write this amazing biography, which if you really have time to read, Grant's a very interesting person. You learn a lot. Just an average, everyday person from the Midwest, less racist than some of his associates at that time. There are going to be some things that if you're a black person, your teeth going to get set on edge, but less so than others. To just watch how this man worked from being a drunkard, had to leave, left the army because he couldn't control his drinking, controlled his drinking and came back. How did he get here? Well, he got here from focusing on what he was doing and not worrying about everybody else. That's it. That's all I got for you. We spend a lot of time as African Americans looking at what everybody else can do because I don't think we truly believe that we can do something. We're going to sit up here and be worried about what some celebrity is doing, what some black celebrity is doing, good or bad, instead of really putting time and focus on, okay, what is it that we need to be doing? And as I pointed out it'll be yesterday's videos by the time you see this one. As I pointed out in yesterday's videos, you can start spending hundreds of hours, months of your life in a few years, sitting up worried about what everybody else is doing. This can go either way. It's like online, because I have a lot of athletes in my Sunday school class. So I've paid attention to this renewed argument about Michael Jordan versus LeBron James about who the GOAT is. And what I've noticed, greatest of all time, by the way, GOAT, greatest of all time. And I'm sitting up here like, first of all, of is usually not mentioned in acronym. So, but then second of all, black men are just on here arguing this back and forth with great passion. And there's video after video after whole channels that are basically just lost in this sauce. And I'm just kind of like, okay, but not Michael Jordan, if he were here, given his reputation, would take personal that y'all are not doing what you need to do in practicing your life to be great yourself. It wasn't enough for him, for him to just be good. You can't win that way with a group of people like that. No, he had to beat them up, sometimes personally, in order to get them to tap into the greatness that was in him. Now, that's not a method I personally believe in as a Christian. That's not even allowed. However, I was talking to my mom about outside of Christ, okay, motivating men to be their best almost requires violence in a patriarchy. That was a revelation in doing this study because, like I said, I have athletes in my Sunday school class and I just studied great athletes a little bit now. But hours and days and weeks and months. Some people have been years on this. And I'm like, I watched Michael Jordan play and I get it, but not enough to spend that long. I got to be grateful for myself and the people around me. So even on a positive side, If we take a black woman, for example, Florence Griffith Joyner has a fascinating story. Coco Gauff is going to be presented at our Vacation Bible School as one of our Christian heroes of the faith next week. Coco Gauff's story is fascinating. War Aunties and I did a show about her. She's a fascinating young lady. Serena Williams or Venus Williams, the Williams sisters, are fascinating. But all this time we don't spend arguing like they need us like that. Serena Williams is married to somebody who controls about $12 billion worth of stuff. And okay, so let's go down a little bit. Okay, so Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion, they keep trying to get Tory Lanez out, but he ain't going anywhere because California has a grip on him. That ain't about to happen. People are spending hours and days and weeks and months, and really when you add up all the time. And what's interesting, because I was a moderator, I'm used to the idea of reading comments. I just see people just chasing each other around in these comment sections. So not only did you spend time watching the video, but then you spent all this time going back and forth, and nobody is accomplishing anything but titillating their emotions going back and forth. One show, we use Stevenson's off for the example, can account for 5 to 12 hours a week. So then imagine that you're going to see the reaction videos to all these other things or all these different subjects. Brian Carr, to go to the church side of things for a minute, is messed up again. I'm like, y'all needed to have all this information to know that that wasn't working. I'm like, yeah, we've had enough information about him 12 years ago. Y'all surprised? All these different channels are covering it. And because I may have to have an answer, I may have to watch it once. One of those, I'll pick the best one I can. So between Judge Alicia Thomas and the Jews Radio Talk Show, 2 wonderful black women lead those channels. I will probably watch it once, watch a breakdown for it once, but then I got to get up and get on with other things. I got to make sure the young ladies who grew up around me never feel like they have to deal with a man like that to get anything from God or anyone else. I got stuff to do. And here's the deal. That doesn't make me better than anyone else. It just means that I've just picked up and applied some different wisdom. It just means that I had a flashcard deck of the Civil War that I found when I was 5-ish. And it imprinted itself on my mind. There was a junior novelization of Robert E. Lee that I encountered when I was about 9. And I've also read as an adult the biographies of E.P. Alexander, and who was a Confederate general, and General Grant himself. So just having been exposed to Civil War history and been around it for, almost 40 years, that one thing that Ulysses S. Grant said before going to be in his tomb in 1883-ish. It was 81 or 83, can't remember right now. One of those 2 dates. Stop worrying about what your opponent, whoever you feel your opponent is, stop worrying about what your opponent is doing. Get very focused on what you're doing. For a lot of people, that is the step that they need to get through to victory. Put more of your time focusing on what you're doing. And sometimes in the internet age, if you just do what you're going to do and stay quiet, your opponent doesn't even have to know what you're doing. I don't have many ops at this stage of my life, I thank God. I don't have many ops on the mortal level. One of the reasons I don't have a whole lot of ops is because I don't let people know what it is they can be ops for. I just do what I'm going to do. I have a few ops on my writing platform because of foolery that people want to do on Hive. But they're dumb enough to yak and leave record and want credit, and I just read the stuff and come through and then put it out there in a couple different languages, what I think should be done. And even though I'm not always completely victorious, I usually can get them to, because they talk too much, I usually can knock stuff that they want done off of being as big as they want. I have a track record on that. I've knocked a few people off that platform. Talking mess. Plotting on people. A few. Because what I did was just maneuver it so that other people of the white supremacist mindset don't want to be embarrassed. And the few ops that I have on a level of people opposing us and doing what we need to do with our senior housing, they also learn, you don't want that. No. Because I'm going to keep records, and I'm going to have those records show up in places where you don't want them. Because we're not going to just sit down and let folk do stuff. But most of the time, my life is peaceful because I focus on what I'm doing. Unless you're doing something that is going to be impactful to what I'm doing, you're welcome to do whatever you want. There's enough room in the world. When you start coming after black women and elders and children, there's going to be a problem in San Francisco. But other than that, I'm afraid about whatever's going on and wherever it's going on. But I got to focus on what I'm doing. And I add this wisdom to y'all. Because once you have mastered what you're doing, then you can take that mastery and rotate it to be able to do more. Like, at this point, I can have an effect on some things maybe that are happening in Oakland or in my field. I can go to City Hall and yell at folk because I have a little bit of a reputation. And take this big voice down there and let them know what they think they're going to do and what they are going to do, and put it on the public record that this is what's going on and where they fall in, and get them to make some adjustments. I can't necessarily stop anything that they plan to do. I'm not at that level, but I can get them to adjust it sometimes because we've had a track record of doing that for 12 years. This is how you build strength and become a powerful person. Master the fundamentals of what you're doing and do that. And like I said, I'm not saying for anybody to give up their favorite web show. You can do whatever you want to do. If you want to solve your problems in life, 5 hours a week, 1 hour, 5 days a week, 10 hours a week, 2 hours, 5 days a week, or take an hour every day and 2 on certain days that you want, and begin to change your life. That will give you a month, a week, a month. Over the course of 3 years, that'll give you 2 full months of your time. Between 1 and 2 full months of your time to solve the problems that you have in your life. And then you can keep your favorite recreation. But at some point, you got to start making some decisions. And the other thing you have to understand is once you start focusing on what you're doing, you're going to feel there and feel stupid about you worried about what everybody else is doing. Just be okay with that. I know I did in June, July, August, September of 2022. How did I let myself put in all this time for something that's not changing my or anyone else's life for the better in a very fundamental way? I know I felt bad for a little while, and I felt bad because I missed the community that I was in. That was not an easy decision. But at this point, Ulysses S. Grant has been right for the past 121 years and won his war. And we will celebrate the Juneteenth on the 19th, which is partially made possible because General Grant won that war. And how did he do it? He stopped worried about what his op was doing. Focused on what he knew he could do to have that op surrender. It works. And if you don't have ops, well, you're going to build up the biggest army and rebuild your country and move on with your life. There's some political wisdom that goes with this too, but that's a conversation for a different day. Y'all have a good day now. Goodbye. Thank you for listening.